Alright, so what's going on, guys? So in today's video, I'm going to start breaking down this engine that I pulled out of the Eclipse. Like I said, this is the 4G64. It's a 2.4 liter, of course, inline 4-cylinder. Now this breakdown will be pretty much universal for any inline 4-cylinder. So whether it be a Honda, Mitsubishi, any other, pretty much any inline 4-cylinder breakdown is going to be similar. So the reason I'm doing this, of course, like I said, I won't be using the cylinder head of most of these accessories, so I can get that stuff scrapped and get it sent off. And I'm really curious what this block actually looks like, what the crank looks like, because that's the part I'll be saving for my build. Speaking of scrapping, you may be wondering how I'm doing on recouping my money from the Eclipse. Like I said, I initially spent $600 on it, and I've actually gotten rid of the Eclipse already. So this is it. This is what I made from the Eclipse. So of course, I still got a long way to go. So in my mind, when I bought the Eclipse, I was gonna scrap it out, scrap bumpers, hoods, headlights, taillights, doors, any kind of body panels. It was really the only way that I was gonna recoup my money. But one thing I forgot is I'm actually really lazy, and I didn't do any of that. Once I got the parts off that I needed, I pulled a few interior parts, and I just scrapped the car. So that's the change that I found. So I've got at least probably $2 there. And then I have sold a few things from the inside of the car. So I've probably made about 20 bucks out of my initial $600 investment. And that didn't go according to plan, but I do still have a few more parts I have to sell, as well as the money I'll make back from scrapping some of this metal. So I might be able to make $100 back. We'll see. But of course, now my focus is the Galant, and I'm really anxious to get this build started. So I need to get this engine stripped and see what kind of parts I'm working with. That way I can go ahead and send any parts off to be machined, so I can have as little downtime as possible. So the first thing I do, I think I'm gonna start from the top and work my way down. I think I'll take off some of the accessories and the belts, spark plugs, then eventually the head, and I'll tear down the block, and I'll show you guys that process. Like I said, this should be pretty much universal for any 4-cylinder, and it's gonna be pretty similar for any engine, any combustion engine. You didn't come right here. Alright, comes right out. Right, now if you don't have an impact, it's gonna be a little more difficult because you'll be pulling on it, so you might actually be turning the engine over. I should show you what I mean. I just put this back in here. So if you're using just a regular ratchet, That's what you end up getting. I'm actually turning the engine over. And if you've never seen it, that's kind of how the engine cycle. So if you don't have an impact and you're trying to do this, is put something in here. And then this way, when you go to turn it, it'll catch it. It'll bind, and then you'll be able to get the torque on that you need. But for doing this, I definitely recommend the impact. It'll make your life a lot easier. All right, so with the timing cover off, you can see all your timing components. You have, again, just some of your pulleys, your auto tensioner, your oil pump housing, which is this. And all this stuff kind of works together to make sure the engine runs right. So the reason those holes are there, the ones that are in that pulley that you may have used to help get the crank pulley off, are actually so that you can get to a few bolts that are behind it that you need to get to in order to take that off. So you can see, you line the bolt holes up. There's one, and there's two. And it should be free. That's why there were 4 on the other side that were already exposed, and then there's just the 2 that was hidden behind that pulley. So it should, comes right off. And that is your power steering pulley, your power steering pump. I just have the bracket that it was attached to, so I'm gonna swap out my socket and get this off. One bracket here behind it, same thing, 14 millimeter bolt. Now these bolts here are actually for your balance shafts. It's basically just 2 long rods that are in the engine. There's one here and there's one over here. Right, so in case it does get brought up, a lot of the pulleys you don't need to remove because they're not all mounted to the block. Some of them are mounted to the water pump and the oil pump cover, and etc. You can see that it actually has a tear halfway through it. Now granted, this engine did have 200-something thousand miles on it, so it's about time that it goes, but that could be an unwelcome surprise when that were to go. Push it off. And there it is. Once I use the end of my screwdriver to get it far enough away, I use my pry bar, suck it behind it, to push it most of the way, to push it to the end of the shaft. All right guys, moment of truth. So I actually forgot that in order to get the oil pump off, you have to have the oil pan off because it's the drain tube that goes down into the oil pan from the pump. So since I had to get the oil pan off, I had to flip the engine over. I went ahead and took the transmission off. Now to take the transmission off is actually pretty simple. There's just a few bolts on the outside of the transmission. You can see them here. I put a few of them back just so I know where they go because some of them are different lengths. You just remove these. This is where your starter will go and it comes out. Now I did notice there was some scarring on the inside of the transmission. So I'm guessing at some point, maybe part of the clutch or something broke. Most of it's pretty light, which makes me think that something broke off because there's a lot of little small pecks, like something just spinning around here loose. A new clutch on it and a new, or I guess resurfaced, cleaned up flywheel. I'm gonna go ahead and take this off and then flip the engine over, take the oil pan off, and then I'll be able to get the oil pump off and then I'll be done. 12 millimeter. I flipped the engine over and of course I still got a little bit of fluid leaking out. Now these bolts should be 10 millimeters, so I'm gonna go ahead and get these taken off. I didn't put a socket on it yet. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the camera down so I can get this cleaned up a little bit to help me take it off. But you guys get the point. All right, so from here it's pretty simple. I've got all the bolts out, so you're just gonna take something thin and pry it between the oil pan and the block. The pickup tube, not the drain tube, is what's actually stopping you from removing the oil pump on the side. Because obviously with it off, it comes right out. You see one of your balance shafts, and again, that's nothing holding this thing in. Your balance shafts, so that's 2 of these, basically spin in opposite directions of each other, just trying to cancel out any vibration. Next, I'm gonna set this crank free. Then these are 17 millimeter bolts here. You can undo the bottom of the rods here, flip the block back over, and then pull the rods and the pistons out through the top, and then we'll be done. All right, so correction. The 2 bolts on the end that I pointed to are actually 14 millimeter bolts. The rest of them are 17s. So I'm gonna take this girdle off. Use this wood. Since I do need this stuff. Alright, so now I've got the crank exposed. But before I do that, I need to take these off here. This is the last piece holding the crank on. This should come out. Alright guys, so that's it. The engine is completely broken down. Fortunately, the block was in good shape. The crank is in good shape. And it looks to have had a new clutch, either a new or resurfaced flywheel. So basically everything that I need is still in good shape. Everything else is either gonna be sold or scrapped. So that's it. It's really not that complicated. You just need a few hours of your time, and if you have the right tools, you can get this thing done. And now you got a little bit of cleanup to do. All right, guys, so thank you guys for watching my video. I hope you learned something. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them down in the comment below. Again, this is pretty much step 1 of the engine build, which is coming later. Like I said in the beginning of the video, I want to get this stuff sorted, sold, and kind of off to a machine shop so I won't have any downtime. That's my goal right now, is not to have any downtime. So please hit that thumbs up button if you didn't already. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And I'll see you guys later.